Naomi Brooks didn't come to Seoul looking for trouble. She came for a boring pharmaceutical conference that her company was paying for. 3 days of PowerPoint presentations and networking lunches that made her want to scream. At 47 years old, she'd been to enough of these conferences to know the routine. Smile, shake hands, exchange business cards, go back to the hotel. Simple. But tonight, her colleague Tasha had dragged her to some club in Gangnam, and Naomi was actually having the time of her life. The music was loud, the drinks were strong, and for the first time in months, Naomi felt young again. She was wearing a red dress that hugged every curve. Her natural hair was in a high puff, and her dark skin was glowing under the club lights. "Girl, you better work," Tasha shouted over the music, dancing next to her. Naomi laughed and threw her hands up, moving her hips to the beat. She didn't care who was watching. She was feeling herself tonight. What she didn't know was that someone very dangerous was watching her. Up in the VIP section that most people didn't even know existed, a young man sat perfectly still, his eyes locked on Naomi like a predator watching prey. His name was Kai Nakamura. Just Kai. Nobody used his last name anymore, because nobody was stupid enough to get that familiar with him. At 30 years old, Kai controlled more of Seoul's underworld than the police wanted to admit. Drugs, weapons, politicians, judges. If it was dirty and it made money, Kai had his hands in it. People whispered his name in dark corners and crossed the street when they saw his cars coming. But right now, none of that mattered because the woman in the red dress had just made him forget how to breathe. Boss, his second in command, a man named Rio, noticed the change immediately. "Everything okay?" Kai didn't answer. He couldn't. He was too busy watching the way this woman moved. Confident, sexy, completely unaware that she just caught the attention of the most dangerous man in Seoul. She wasn't young. He could tell she had that mature beauty that younger women couldn't fake. The kind of woman who knew exactly who she was and didn't apologize for it. Kai wanted her. No, he needed her. Find out everything about her. Kai said quietly, still staring at Naomi. "I want to know her name, where she's staying, why she's in Seoul, everything." "Yes, boss." Rio pulled out his phone and started making calls, but Kai wasn't patient enough to wait. He stood up and headed for the stairs. Down on the dance floor, Naomi was having so much fun. She didn't notice the crowd starting to part around her. Didn't notice the way people were suddenly moving away, creating a circle of space. She did notice when the music seemed to get quieter, even though it was still playing at the same volume. And she definitely noticed when a voice behind her said, "You dance like you own this place." Naomi turned around and almost choked on her own breath. The finest man she'd ever seen in her entire life was standing right there, young, probably early 30s with smooth skin, sharp cheekbones, and eyes so intense they made her stomach flip. He was dressed in all black, and something about the way he stood made her nervous and excited at the same time. "I'm just having fun," Naomi said, trying to sound casual even though her heart was pounding. I can see that his English was perfect with just a hint of an accent that made everything sound sexier. "I'm Kai." "Naomi." He said her name slowly like he was tasting it. "Can I buy you a drink?" She should have said no. Something about this man screamed danger. But Naomi had spent the last 6 years playing it safe after her divorce, being responsible, being boring. Tonight, she wanted to be reckless. "Sure," she said. They went to the VIP section, which Naomi quickly realized was way too fancy for a regular person. Private booths, bottles of champagne that probably cost more than her car payment, and security guards everywhere. "So what do you do?" Naomi asked, sipping the most expensive champagne she'd ever tasted. Kai smiled, and it was the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm an import and export, very boring business stuff." Liar, Naomi thought, but she didn't push it. They talked for hours, or maybe it was minutes. Time did something weird when Kai was looking at her like she was the only woman in the world. He asked about her life, her work, her daughter back in the States. He listened like every word she said was important. "I have to leave Seoul in 2 days." Naomi said at some point, "I'm just here for work." Kai's expression changed. Got darker. 2 days is not enough time. "For what?" "To convince you to stay." Naomi laughed nervously. "I have a life back home, a job, a daughter. What if I gave you a reason to stay?" Kai leaned closer, and Naomi could smell his cologne. Expensive, intoxicating. "What if I told you that I haven't been able to think about anything but you since the moment I saw you on that dance floor?" That's crazy. You don't even know me. Not yet. His hand touched her face, and Naomi felt electricity shoot through her entire body. But I will, and you'll know me, and then you'll understand why I can't let you leave. Red flags were going off in Naomi's head like fireworks. This was too intense, too fast, too everything. But God help her. She didn't want him to stop touching her. I should get back to my friend, Naomi said, standing up even though every part of her wanted to stay. Kai stood too, pulling a black business card from his pocket. Call me tomorrow. We'll have dinner. I don't know if that's a good idea. Call me Naomi. It wasn't a request. It was a command. Please. The please at the end softened it just enough that Naomi took the card. She found Tasha at the bar looking worried. Girl, where have you been? I was about to send out a search party. I met someone. Naomi said, still feeling dizzy. His name is Kai. He's Naomi trailed off. What was he? I don't know, but he wants to have dinner with me tomorrow. Tasha's eyes went wide. As in just Kai. No last name. Yeah, why? Tasha grabbed Naomi's arm and pulled her toward the exit. We need to leave right now. Because I was asking the bartender about the VIP section, and when I mentioned a guy named Kai, he literally went pale. Naomi, people are scared of him. Like really scared. Naomi's stomach dropped. What are you saying? I'm saying I think you just had drinks with a gangster. They got back to their hotel, and Naomi couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Kai's eyes, his touch, the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious. The next morning, there was a knock on her door. A hotel employee stood there with the biggest bouquet of red roses Naomi had ever seen. The card said, dinner tonight at 8. My driver will pick you up at 7:45. We're red again. You look like a queen. There's also this, the employee said, holding up a designer dress bag. Inside was a red evening gown that probably cost more than Naomi made in a month, and it was exactly her size. How did he know her size? Naomi's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Naomi. Kai's voice made her knees weak, even over the phone. Did you get my gift? How did you know my size? How did you know what hotel I'm staying at? I wanted to make sure dinner would be perfect. Say yes, Naomi. Let me show you what your life could be like. Every logical part of Naomi's brain screamed. No, this man was dangerous. He'd somehow found out where she was staying and what size she wore. That wasn't romantic. That was stalking. But there was another part of her, a part she'd buried for years, that whispered. When was the last time someone wanted you this badly? Okay, Naomi heard herself say. I'll have dinner with you. Won't regret it. Kai's voice got softer. I promise you, Naomi Brooks, you won't regret it. He hung up. Naomi stared at the phone. He knew her last name. She'd never told him her last name. She looked out the window, and her blood turned to ice. There were 5 black SUVs parked outside the hotel, just sitting there waiting. Naomi grabbed her phone and called Tasha. We have a problem. Tasha came to Naomi's room within minutes. And when she looked out the window, she gasped. Those weren't there last night, Tasha said. Naomi, what did you get yourself into? I don't know. Naomi was pacing back and forth. He seemed so nice. Intense but nice. But this, she pointed at the SUVs. This is insane. You need to cancel that dinner. And say what? The fact that you're stalking me is a turnoff. Naomi sat on the bed, her head in her hands. What if he gets angry? What if? Her phone rang again. Naomi answered with shaking hands. Those men outside your hotel are for your protection, not to scare you. Kai's voice was calm. Too calm. I made a mistake last night by being seen with you so publicly. Now certain people know you're important to me. Those men will keep you safe until you leave Seoul. Important to you. We just met. I know. But Naomi, I've never felt like this before. And I need you to understand that in my world, when something matters to me, I protect it. You matter to me. What world? What do you do, Kai? Long silence. Have dinner with me tonight, and I'll tell you everything. Complete honesty. No more secrets. Naomi should hang up. Should pack her bags and catch the earliest flight home. 7:45, she said instead. But I'm meeting you there. Send me the address. I'm driving myself. Naomi, those are my terms. Take it or leave it. She could hear the smile in his voice. You're stubborn. I love that. I'll text you the address. After he hung up, Tasha looked at Naomi like she'd lost her mind. You're actually going. I have to know, Naomi said. I have to know what this is. That night, Naomi put on the red dress. It fit like it was made for her body specifically. She did her makeup, put on her good jewelry, and tried to ignore the fact that her hands were shaking. The address Kai sent led to a restaurant in a part of Seoul that looked expensive and exclusive. When Naomi pulled up, Kai was standing outside waiting for her, and her breath caught. He was wearing a black suit that probably cost more than her car. When he saw her, his whole face changed, softened. "You came," he said, opening her car door. "I said I would. You also could have changed your mind. I'm glad you didn't." He offered his hand, and Naomi took it. The restaurant was empty, completely empty. "Where is everyone?" Naomi asked. "I reserved the entire place. I wanted privacy for what I need to tell you." They sat at a table by the window overlooking the Seoul skyline. The food was incredible, but Naomi could barely taste it. She was too focused on Kai, who kept watching her with those intense eyes. "You said you'd tell me the truth," Naomi finally said. "So tell me, what do you do?" Kai sat down his fork and looked at her directly. "I run the largest criminal organization in Seoul. Drugs, weapons, money laundering, protection rackets. If it's illegal and profitable, I control it." Naomi's heart stopped. "You're a gangster." "I prefer the term businessman, but yes, I'm what you would call a mafia boss." She should leave, should run, should. "I've killed people, Naomi." Kai's voice didn't change. "Not many, but enough. I've ordered deaths. I've destroyed lives. I'm not a good man." "Then why are you telling me this?" "Because I need you to know exactly who I am before you decide." He reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm 30 years old, and I've never believed in love. I thought it was weakness. But then I saw you dancing, and something in me broke open. I can't explain it. All I know is that I need you in my life, Naomi. And I won't lie to you about who I am to get that." Naomi's mind was spinning. "This is crazy. You're a criminal. I'm a pharmaceutical researcher with a normal life. This doesn't make sense. Love never makes sense. Love, you don't love me. Then let me know you." Kai's grip on her hand tightened. "Stay in Seoul. Get to know me. Let me prove that I can be what you need. I can't just abandon my life." "Why not? What's waiting for you back home?" "An ex-husband who remarried. A daughter who's living her own life in college. A job that you're good at but doesn't fulfill you." Kai leaned closer. "I can give you everything, Naomi. Everything you've ever wanted. All you have to do is say yes." How did he know about her ex-husband? About her daughter? "You investigated me," Naomi said slowly. "You had someone dig into my entire life." "Yes, that's insane. That's survival. I don't take risks with things that matter." Naomi pulled her hand away and stood up. "I need air." She walked out to the balcony, and Kai followed. The Seoul skyline sparkled in front of them, beautiful and overwhelming. "I'm scared," Naomi admitted. "You scare me. You should be scared of me." Kai came up behind her, close but not touching. "But I will never hurt you. I'd burn this entire city down before I let anyone hurt you." "Why me? Why not someone younger? Someone who fits into your world?" "Because you're real." His voice got rough. "Everyone in my world is fake. They want my money, my power, my protection. But you looked at me like I was just a man. Not a monster, just a man. Do you know how rare that is?" Naomi turned to face him, and the look in his eyes almost broke her heart. He looked lonely, desperately, achingly lonely. "I can't stay in Seoul," she said softly. "But I don't want to never see you again either." "Then don't leave." Kai cupped her face. "Give me 2 weeks, just 2 weeks to prove that this is real. If after 2 weeks you want to go home, I'll put you on a plane myself. But please, Naomi, give us a chance." She was about to answer when her phone rang. "Tasha, I need to take this," Naomi said, stepping away. "Naomi," Tasha was crying. "You need to get out of there right now. I've been researching Kai all day. Naomi, he's not just a gangster. He's wanted by Interpol. There are rumors that he's killed over 20 people personally, and there's a whole dark web forum about him where people talk about the bodies that disappear when they cross him." Naomi felt sick. "Tasha, 2 years ago, a woman tried to leave him after they dated for a month. They found her body in the Han River. Naomi, people who get involved with him don't just walk away, they disappear." Naomi's hand was shaking so hard, she almost dropped the phone. "I have to go." She ended the call and turned to find Kai standing there, having heard everything. "Is it true?" Naomi's voice was barely a whisper. "Did you kill a woman who tried to leave you?" Kai's expression went cold. "No, but I know who did, and I made sure they suffered for it. She wasn't mine to protect, but she died in my territory, so I took responsibility." "That's not an answer." "The answer is I've killed people who deserved it. Rapists, child traffickers, men who hurt women." His eyes were black ice. But I have never and will never hurt a woman, especially not one I care about. How do I know you're telling the truth? You don't. Kai took a step closer. You have to trust me, and I know that's asking the impossible. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the building. Glass shattered. Alarms started screaming. Kai grabbed Naomi and pulled her down just as bullets tore through the space where they'd been standing. What's happening? Naomi screamed. My enemies just made a big mistake. Kai pulled out a gun from under his jacket. Stay down and don't move. Men in black tactical gear burst onto the balcony, and Kai moved like violence personified. Naomi watched in horror as he shot 3 men in seconds. His movements precise and terrifyingly efficient. More men poured in. Kai was shouting in Korean into his phone. More gunfire, more screaming. Then everything went quiet. Kai grabbed Naomi's hand. We need to go now? They ran through the restaurant, past bodies Naomi tried not to look at, and out to the street where dozens of black SUVs were screeching to a stop. Get in. Kai shoved Naomi into the middle vehicle. What about you? I'll be right behind you. I need to make sure they don't follow. Kai no, but he was already gone, running back toward the building with his gun raised. The SUV took off with Naomi screaming for them to go back. They drove for what felt like hours, taking turns so fast Naomi felt sick, until finally they arrived at a massive compound surrounded by walls and armed guards. A man opened her door. Miss Brooks, please come with me. You'll be safe here. Where's Kai? The boss will be here soon. But an hour passed, then 2, then 4. Naomi sat in a luxurious room that felt like a prison, staring at her phone, jumping at every sound. Finally, at 2 a.m., her phone rang, unknown number. A voice she didn't recognize spoke in accented English. Miss Brooks, my name is Hiroshi Tanaka. I'm the head of the Jade Dragon Syndicate, and I'm currently looking at your boyfriend, Kai, who has a gun pointed at his head. Naomi's entire world stopped. He's alive for now, but that depends entirely on what you do next. What do you want? You, Miss Brooks, in exchange for him. You see, we've been watching. We know you're important to him, and we're willing to make a trade. You turn yourself over to us, and we let Kai live. You have until sunrise to decide. That's 4 hours from now. The man laughed. Choose wisely, because if you don't come, we'll send Kai back to you in pieces. The line went dead. Naomi stared at the phone in absolute horror. Outside, she heard vehicles pulling up, dozens of them. She ran to the window and almost fainted. 50 black SUVs were pulling into the compound, surrounding it completely. Kai's men were scrambling, grabbing weapons, shouting orders. Naomi's phone buzzed with a text from the unknown number. Look outside. That's our army. You have 4 hours. Come to us, or everyone in that compound dies, including Kai. A photo came through. Kai, bloodied and tied to a chair, unconscious. Naomi's hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold the phone. What had she gotten herself into? And how was she going to get out alive? What will Naomi do? Will she sacrifice herself to save Kai? Or is this all trap? Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss part 2. This story is about to get even crazier. Comment below. Should Naomi save Kai or save herself? Let me know what you would do. Naomi stared at the photo of Kai bloodied and unconscious for exactly 30 seconds before her pharmaceutical background kicked in. Crisis management wasn't just about boardroom disasters anymore. She studied the compound through the window, counting security positions, noting blind spots, remembering every detail Kai had told her about his organization during dinner. The man who'd captured him didn't know who he was dealing with. Naomi Brooks had spent 15 years in corporate crisis management before switching to pharmaceuticals. She knew how to think under pressure, how to analyze weaknesses, how to turn desperate situations into opportunities. And Hiroshi Tanaka had just made his first mistake by giving her 4 hours to think. She grabbed her phone and started making calls. First, Tasha, I need you to do exactly what I say without asking questions. Can you do that for me? Naomi, what's happening? Are you okay? I need you to call the American embassy and tell them an American citizen is being held hostage by organized crime in Seoul. Give them my name and location. Tell them it's urgent. But Naomi, no buts. Do it now. Then get on the first flight back to the States. This isn't your fight. The second call was to her company's Seoul office. As a pharmaceutical researcher, she had access to chemical supplies that most people couldn't obtain. Dr. Kim, this is Naomi Brooks. I need you to authorize emergency access to your laboratory supplies. I need sulfur compounds, potassium nitrate, and magnesium strips. It's for a presentation emergency. Dr. Brooks, it's 3 a.m. Can't this wait? No, it can't. And I need them delivered to this address within 2 hours. The third call was the most important one. She dialed Rio's number, hoping Kai had told his second-in-command about her. This is Naomi Brooks. Your boss is being held by the Jade Dragon Syndicate. I know where he is, and I have a plan to get him out. But I need your help. Miss Brooks, Rio's voice was tense. Where are you? How do you know about the boss? Because I'm the reason he's captured. They want to trade me for him. But I'm not going to make that trade. I'm going to get him back myself. And you're going to help me do it. She could hear voices in the background, urgent Korean conversations. Miss Brooks, with respect, this is not a game. These are dangerous people. I know exactly how dangerous they are. But they've made a tactical error. They think I'm just some scared American woman they can manipulate. They don't know I've been managing corporate emergencies for 2 decades. They don't know I have access to industrial chemicals. And they don't know I'm angry enough to burn down half of Seoul to get him back. There was a long pause. What do you need? Within 2 hours, Naomi had transformed from terrified hostage into strategic coordinator. The chemical supplies arrived first. Using her pharmaceutical knowledge, she began creating what every crisis manager knew they might need someday, but hoped they'd never use. Improvised explosives weren't in any corporate manual, but chemical reactions were chemical reactions whether you were synthesizing medications or creating diversions. Rio arrived with 6 of Kai's most trusted men, all of them looking skeptical about taking orders from an American woman in a red evening dress. She'd changed into dark clothes from Kai's closet, but she still felt absurdly out of place giving tactical instructions to professional criminals. The compound where they're holding him has 12 visible entry points, Naomi said, spreading building blueprints across the table that Rio's people had somehow obtained. Security is concentrated at the main gates, but there's a service entrance on the east side that connects to the underground parking garage. The building plans show an old steam tunnel system that runs beneath the structure from the original construction in the 1960s. Miss Brooks, one of Rio's men interrupted. How do you know about building infrastructure? I spent 5 years managing facility upgrades for a multinational corporation. You learn to read architectural plans when you're coordinating renovations across 46 countries. Now, the steam tunnels will get us into the basement, but we need a distraction to draw security away from wherever they're holding Kai. That's where these come in. She gestured to the chemical devices she'd assembled. Timed explosions in the parking garage will trigger evacuation protocols. While they're dealing with what they think is a gas leak or electrical fire, we go in through the tunnels and extract Kai before they realize what's happening. Rio studied her with new respect. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone who would cry and wait for rescue. Instead, you're planning an assault on a fortified position using improvised explosives and architectural knowledge. Kai chose well. He didn't choose anything. We met 3 days ago. Maybe not chose, Rio said quietly, but recognized. He's been looking for someone like you his whole life. Someone smart enough to match him, strong enough to stand with him. Someone who doesn't run when things get dangerous. I'm terrified, Naomi admitted. But I'm not running. Good. Fear keeps you alive. Stupidity gets you killed. The plan they developed over the next hour was insane, dangerous, and probably suicide. It was also the only chance they had. At 4:30 a.m., exactly 30 minutes before Hiroshi Tanaka's deadline, Naomi and 6 armed men disappeared into Seoul's underground tunnel system, carrying enough homemade explosives to level a city block. The tunnels were exactly as the blueprints indicated, humid and narrow, filled with pipes and electrical conduits that had been installed decades apart. Naomi led the way, using her phone's flashlight to navigate by the architectural plans she'd memorized. Behind her, Rio's men moved like professional soldiers, weapons ready, trusting her completely despite having met her 3 hours ago. When they reached the position beneath the building, Naomi could hear vehicles above, voices shouting orders. Hiroshi Tanaka was positioning his forces for whatever response Kai's organization might mount. He had no idea the response was already inside his building. She placed the first chemical device against a structural support beam, setting the timer for 12 minutes. The explosion wouldn't bring down the building, but it would definitely get everyone's attention. While she worked, Rio's men positioned themselves at access points leading upward into the building proper. "You still have time to leave," Rio said quietly. "Once we go up those stairs, there's no going back." "There was never any going back," Naomi replied. "Not from the moment I met him." The first explosion shook the entire structure. Emergency alarms began screaming immediately, exactly as Naomi had predicted. Through the tunnel ceiling, they could hear running footsteps, shouted orders, vehicles starting. The second explosion, 90 seconds later in a different section, triggered evacuation protocols. Fire department sirens wailed in the distance. "Now," Rio said. They moved up through the building like a coordinated military unit. Naomi stayed close to Rio, following his lead as they navigated corridors filled with confused guards trying to determine if they were under attack or dealing with an industrial accident. Her pharmaceutical knowledge had been crucial in creating devices that would cause maximum chaos with minimal actual structural damage. The goal was distraction, not destruction. They found Kai on the 4th floor, tied to a chair in what looked like a conference room. 3 guards stationed outside. He was conscious now, bloodied but alert, and when he saw Naomi through the door window, his expression shifted from shock to something that might have been love. The guards went down quickly and quietly. Rio's men were professionals. By the time they reached Kai, the building's evacuation was in full chaos mode. Emergency responders were arriving, fire trucks, police, ambulances. In the confusion, no one noticed 6 people and an American woman helping an injured man toward a service exit. "Are you insane?" Kai said as Rio cut his restraints. "Do you have any idea how dangerous this was?" "Extremely dangerous," Naomi replied, helping him stand. "I calculated the risks. The odds were better than I expected." "You calculated the risks?" Kai stared at her. "You're a pharmaceutical researcher." "I'm a pharmaceutical researcher who spent 15 years in corporate crisis management. I know how to analyze complex problems under pressure, and I know how to coordinate emergency responses. Also, I may have just committed several federal crimes helping you escape. We need to discuss that later." They made it to the street as Hiroshi Tanaka's building continued burning from Naomi's carefully placed chemical devices. Fire trucks surrounded the structure, emergency responders coordinated evacuation zones, and in the chaos, nobody noticed a group of people disappearing into the soul morning. By the time Hiroshi Tanaka realized his prisoner was gone, they were already across the city at one of Kai's safe houses. Kai sat on the couch while Naomi cleaned his wounds, her hands steady despite everything they'd been through. "You came for me," he said quietly. "I couldn't let them kill you. Even after everything you learned about me, everything Tasha told you, even knowing how dangerous this world is, especially knowing how dangerous it is." She met his eyes. "I've spent my whole life playing it safe, Kai. Making careful choices, avoiding risks, building a nice, quiet, predictable existence. And I was dying of boredom. Meeting you, falling for you, planning a tactical assault on a fortified position. For the first time in years, I feel alive." He pulled her close, wincing slightly from his injuries. "I love you, Naomi Brooks. I love you too, Kai Nakamura. Now what do we do about the fact that I just helped a notorious crime boss escape from his enemies using improvised explosives?" "We figure it out together," he said. "But first, we disappear for a while. Hiroshi Tanaka isn't going to give up easily." "How long is a while?" "As long as it takes." "Naomi, I meant what I said at dinner. I'll give up everything for you. The organization, the power, all of it. We can go anywhere in the world, start over, build something legitimate. What if I don't want you to give up everything? What if I want to stay and fight? This is your world, your city, your life. I'm not asking you to abandon it. I'm asking you to share it. You want to stay? In Seoul. With me. In this life. I want to stay with you, whatever that means. If it means running, we run. If it means fighting, we fight. But I'm not going back to my old life pretending none of this happened. I love you, and I'm keeping you. Even if it means learning to live dangerously. Even if it means becoming someone I never thought I could be." Kai kissed her then, deeply, desperately, and Naomi knew she'd made her choice. Not the safe choice, not the reasonable choice, but the right choice. The choice that would transform her from a woman who managed pharmaceutical crises to a woman who could hold her own in a criminal empire. 3 months later, Naomi Brooks became the most effective strategic coordinator Kai's organization had ever seen. Her pharmaceutical knowledge made her invaluable for legitimate business operations. Her crisis management experience made her deadly in negotiations. And her complete loyalty to Kai made her untouchable. Hiroshi Tanaka tried 3 more times to eliminate them. Each attempt failed more spectacularly than the last. Naomi had learned from Kai's people, but she'd also taught them things they'd never considered. Corporate strategy applied to criminal enterprises was devastatingly effective. 6 months later, they were married in a private ceremony at Kai's compound, surrounded by the strangest wedding party in Seoul history. Pharmaceutical executives sat next to reformed criminals. Tasha served as maid of honor, still somewhat confused about how her boring corporate friend had become the wife of Seoul's most powerful crime boss. The American embassy had quietly closed Naomi's missing person case after she'd contacted them to explain she was voluntarily staying in Seoul for personal reasons. Her former employer had sent several increasingly confused emails about her indefinite leave of absence. 1 year later, Naomi stood on the balcony of their penthouse, looking out over the Seoul skyline, where she'd first fallen in love with a dangerous man. Kai joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Any regrets?" he asked. "About leaving your old life behind? About choosing this chaos over safety?" She leaned back against him. "The only thing I regret is waiting 47 years to find you. Everything else, the danger, the uncertainty, the complete transformation of my entire existence. I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Because safe was killing me slowly. This is living." They stood together watching the city lights, 2 people who'd found each other across impossible circumstances and chosen love over logic, danger over safety, together over apart. Naomi Brooks had come to Seoul for a pharmaceutical conference and ended up discovering that sometimes the most dangerous choices lead to the most beautiful destinations. Sometimes the woman you become is worth more than the woman you were. And sometimes love really is worth risking everything for. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tasha, who was back in the States but visited Seoul regularly now. "How's married life with your reformed crime boss?" Naomi typed back. "Perfectly dangerous. Just the way I like it." She showed the message to Kai, who laughed. "Reformed. Right. I prefer the term strategically evolved. We're still criminals, just more efficient ones." "Speak for yourself," Naomi said. "I'm a pharmaceutical consultant who happens to be married to someone in import-export. Very boring business stuff." Kai kissed her neck. "The most dangerous woman in Seoul, pretending to be boring. I love you, Naomi Brooks Nakamura. I love you too. Now come inside. I have some new crisis management scenarios I want to run past you. Some of the overseas operations could use our expertise." Their life together was unconventional, dangerous, and absolutely perfect. Naomi had traded safety for adventure, predictability for passion, and a quiet life for a love worth fighting for. She'd never looked back, never regretted the choice, never wondered what might have been. Because what was better than anything she could have imagined. If you made it through this intense love story, drop a comment and tell me your favorite moment. Was it when Naomi planned the tactical assault? When she chose danger over safety? When they fought their way to their happily ever after? Subscribe for more stories about love that defies logic and women who discover their strength in the most unexpected places. Share this with anyone who believes that sometimes the most dangerous choice is the right choice. And remember, your story isn't over yet. Whatever safe life you're living, whatever dangerous love you're avoiding, whatever impossible thing you're afraid to reach for, maybe it's time to stop playing it safe. Maybe it's time to discover who you become when you choose love over fear. Thank you for believing in stories that start with danger and end with transformation. Until next time, stay fierce, stay fearless, and never stop believing in the power of love to change everything.